All right, guys, so let me show you how to program your robot, RobotC. Introduction, you should have a little icon here. There are two versions of RobotC, but they both work generally the same way. Programming will be no different. It's just what windows you see when you load it up. This is 3.54. First thing you want to do, guys, RobotC, you want to go to Window, Menu Level, do Super User. Okay, pick the maximum one. You'll have the most options available to you. If your battery has been out for a long time, you had to recharge the battery, or things just aren't working right, you're going to need to download what's called the firmware. So you go to Robot, download firmware, and just do standard file. And then I'm going to, now at this point it says no NXT bricks connected via USB. I just connected mine, so I'm going to click refresh list and see if it's going to see my brick. Okay, I cheated a little. I just turned my brick on by pressing the orange button. And now it says installing device driver software. Okay, I'm going to hit refresh list again. And once it's installed, you should be able to refresh it and see the brick. There it is, 3072. Just to be safe, I'm going to do the firmware download. Okay, if your brick says Samba, that means something went wrong, and that's good because it at least knows it's connected. Click FW download and just wait. Okay, your robot itself, the screen's going to go blank. Leave that alone. It's okay. And you just, if you want to, if you're really bored, you can get some reading material by looking at the message log. And you can see it tells you what it's doing. It's starting firmware download. It's pretty exciting, isn't it? This is why I do robotics, is so I can read the message log. Ah, that sound is the sound of success. But it'll also annoy you by the time this unit's over because you'll be hearing that in your sleep. But that's all right. Once it's completed, you're good. What we want to do now is we want to set up our robot. Go to Robot, and we're going to do platform type. We're just doing Lego Mindstorms NXT. So if that's selected, you're good. Okay. So what you want to do now is you want to do your motors and sensors setup. Okay, guys, create a new file. Just do File New, and it's going to say New File Template OO.C. Now, let me show you a couple things here. On your robot, you have, under Platform Type, you have Lego Mindstorms NXT and Natural Language. Now, I have not done natural language before, and some of you have just the Lego Mindstorms NXT because you have the older version. Okay. The natural language is actually a good one to use if you have it because it makes programming a little easier. So on this one, though, I'm going to assume we're just doing Lego Mindstorms the old way, and then we'll try the new way after. Once you do a new file, just do File New, go to Robot, and now do Motors and Sensor Setup. Okay, so there's a standard robot model configuration, and I'm going to skip that. I'm going to go to Sensor Management and just leave it where it's at. Motors, here we go. Notice we have 3 ports for our motors, A, B, and C. I told you earlier that the port A is going to be my right motor, and C is my left motor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call motor A right and motor C left. Okay. Now, check PID. PID control is great for if you're going to go up hills or down hills. And what it does is it controls the speed. If you're going uphill, it takes more energy to keep the same speed. So it'll actually give you more power. And then if you're going downhill, it doesn't take as much, so it actually backs off on the power. And it kind of monitors that. I would leave that checked, okay? But don't think too hard about it. We're doing the standard NXT motor, so just leave the type as motor equipped. And if you find out that one motor is turning the opposite direction, you may need to reverse the motor. I'm going to leave it not reversed. Now, if you have sensors on your robot, figure out what port you're attached to. So I have a sensor, it's a touch sensor, and I haven't connected it yet. But when I do, let's say I'm going to connect it to sensor 1. We'll call this Start BTN for Start Button. And on here, there is a touch sensor. So I would just use touch sensor. So if you want to connect to a different kind, like a light sensor, you've got the light sensor.
What does the light sensor do?
It checks how much light is reflected or how much light just is there ambient. So it just measures the light. And on the light active, it actually will shine a red light down or shine a red light out and then check to see how much light's reflected. It's great if you have it on a surface and you're pointing it down. Yeah, and then you can actually read the value of colors. So you can tell if you go to a darker region or a lighter region, because if it's darker, you're going to get a lower value. If it's lighter, it's going to be brighter. So you can actually read light. Sonar is one that measures distance, just like a bat has sonar. Yeah, the one with two eyes that make it look like it has eyes, that's sonar. Okay, that's down there. So we're not going to go into the sensors right now, but I'm just going to mention that I have a start button. It's a touch sensor, and I'm going to click apply. And okay, and it creates all these lines of code up here. Just ignore it. However, one of the interesting things is if you actually know your code and you're really that geeky and you just feel like, okay, I can do motors and sensor setup without even running that menu, you could type # pragma config motor, motor A. You could add a motor B, and you can do all that other stuff you see there. But why do that? It's already done it for you, okay? So at this point, we're ready to program.